My wife told me my grief for my father was bringing down the mood, said I should be over it by now. I wiped my eyes and said, "You're right." I booked a one-way ticket to my hometown, but she wasn't expecting who was waiting. I'm married, been with my wife for 8 years, and I just learned that some people will only love you when you're convenient to be around. My father died 3 months ago. Heart attack. Sudden. He was healthy, active, just gone one Tuesday morning. I got the call at work, drove 4 hours to the hospital, and he was already gone by the time I arrived. Didn't get to say goodbye. Didn't get to tell him I loved him one more time. Just gone. The finality of it still haunts me, the way life can just stop mid-sentence, leaving everything unsaid hanging in the air like smoke. The grief hit me in waves. Some days I'd be fine, functional, going through the motions. Other days I'd be in the shower and suddenly I'm sobbing. Can't breathe. Missing him so much it physically hurt. My wife was supportive at first, came to the funeral, held my hand, said all the right things. But I realize now those were just the socially expected gestures, the bare minimum of what a spouse should do. But after about a month, things changed. She started making comments about how I needed to move forward, how dwelling on it wasn't healthy, how my father wouldn't want me to be sad. Each comment felt like a paper cut, small, but accumulating into something that hurt more than I wanted to admit. Last Tuesday, exactly 3 months after he died, I was having a bad day. Quiet, withdrawn, just trying to get through it. The anniversary had hit me harder than I expected. We were supposed to go to a dinner party at her friend's house. I told her that morning I wasn't feeling up to it. "You're never up for anything anymore." "I'm grieving." "It's been 3 months. That's not that long." "It's long enough. You need to snap out of this." "I can't just snap out of grief. That's not how it works. Other people lose parents, and they don't fall apart for months." "I'm not falling apart. I'm processing loss. There's a difference." "You're bringing down the mood constantly. I can't have a single happy moment without you finding a way to make it about your sadness." I stared at her. The coldness in her voice was something I'd never heard before, or maybe I'd just been ignoring it all along. "My sadness? My father died." "I know. I was there. But life goes on. We can't put everything on hold indefinitely because you're sad." "I'm not asking you to put anything on hold. I'm asking for understanding." "I've been understanding for 3 months. At some point, you need to just get over it and move on. Get over it. Like it was a cold. Like it was a bad day at work. Just get over it." Those 3 words crystallized everything that was wrong between us. I wiped my eyes. "You're right." "I am?" "Yeah, you're right. I should be over it by now. I'll work on that." She looked relieved. "Thank you. So we're going to the dinner party?" "No, you go. I'm going to stay home and work on getting over it." "Fine. But seriously, you need to snap out of this soon." She left for the party. I sat in the living room for about 20 minutes, numb. The silence of the house felt different now. Not peaceful, but empty. Then I opened my laptop and booked a one-way flight home, to the small town where I grew up, where my father's house still sat, untouched since he died, where my mother still lived, grieving her husband of 40 years. I didn't tell my wife I was leaving, just packed a bag, called a car, went to the airport, texted her from the gate, went home to deal with some things, need time, don't wait up. She called immediately. I didn't answer. She called 6 more times before my flight boarded. I turned off my phone. With each ignored call, I felt lighter, like I was shedding weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. Update 1. I landed around midnight. My mother picked me up from the airport, didn't ask questions when I called her from the layover, just said she'd be there. The airport was nearly empty, fluorescent lights humming overhead, and when I saw her waiting by baggage claim, something in me broke open. She hugged me in the arrivals area for a long time. How bad is it? She told me I should be over it by now. Mom pulled back, looked at me. Her eyes, so much like Dad's, filled with understanding and anger. She said that? Yeah. Said I'm bringing down the mood, that 3 months is long enough. Oh, sweetheart. We drove to my childhood home in silence, the house where my father had lived his whole adult life, where he'd raised me, where he'd died. The streets looked smaller than I remembered, the houses closer together. Everything felt both familiar and foreign at the same time. I slept in my old bedroom, woke up around 6 a.m. to the smell of coffee. Mom was already up, sitting in the kitchen with my father's favorite mug, the one I'd given him for Father's Day years ago. Seeing it in her hands made my chest tight. Couldn't sleep? Haven't been sleeping much since he died. The house is too quiet. I sat down across from her. I'm sorry I haven't been here more. You've been dealing with your own grief, and apparently, a wife who doesn't understand it. She thinks I should be over it. Nobody gets over losing a parent. You just learn to live with the absence. That takes as long as it takes. She's acting like I'm being dramatic, like I'm milking it for attention or something. Some people don't understand grief until they go through it themselves. Unfortunately, that means they're often cruel to people who are grieving. My phone, which I'd finally turned back on, started buzzing. Messages from my wife. Where are you? Why would you just leave like that? This is immature. You're proving my point about being dramatic. Call me. I'm serious. Call me now. I showed my mother the messages. She read them, handed the phone back. Are you planning to call her? Eventually. Not yet. What do you need right now? I need to go through Dad's things. I need to be here. I need to not be told I'm grieving wrong. Then stay as long as you need. Update 2. I spent Wednesday going through my father's workshop. He'd been a craftsman, made furniture by hand, beautiful pieces all over our house and the houses of friends and family. The workshop smelled like sawdust and the coffee he'd drink while working. Every tool still hung exactly where he'd left it, organized with the precision he'd brought to everything he did. I ran my fingers along his workbench, worn smooth by decades of use, and could almost feel his presence. I found plans for a cradle, detailed drawings, measurements, notes in his handwriting. A cradle. For a grandchild, he'd never have because my wife and I had decided not to have kids. Except we hadn't really decided. She'd decided, and I'd gone along with it because I always went along with what she wanted. And now my father would never meet a grandchild because I'd been too accommodating to push back. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I sat on his workbench and cried for an hour, cried for my father, cried for the grandchild that would never exist, cried for all the times I'd said, okay, when I meant no, cried for the man I'd become, or stopped being. My phone rang around 3 p.m., my wife's brother. We'd always gotten along okay, nothing deep but cordial. Hey man, she asked me to call you. I'm fine. She's worried. She has a funny way of showing it. Look, I don't know what happened, but she's pretty upset that you just left. She told me I should be over my father's death by now, that I'm bringing down the mood, so I left to avoid bringing down her mood anymore. Silence. Then, she said that? Word for word. That's harsh. Yeah. My dad died when I was 22. Took me years to feel normal again. 3 months is nothing. That's what I thought. You need anything? Just time. Take it. I'll talk to her. He hung up. I turned off my phone again. Update 3 Thursday. My mother and I went through my father's clothes. Donated most of it, kept a few of his flannel shirts, the ones that still smelled like him somehow. We worked in companionable silence, folding and sorting, occasionally sharing memories attached to specific items, the tie he wore to my college graduation, the jacket he'd had for 30 years. My mother found a letter in his dresser drawer, addressed to me, dated 2 days before he died. He wrote you a letter? I didn't know about this. Maybe he had a feeling. He'd been talking about getting his affairs in order. I thought he was just being practical. I opened it, his handwriting, shaky but legible. Son, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope it was quick. I hope you were there. I hope you know how proud I am of you. You've built a good life. You've become a good man. But I need to tell you something I've been too chicken to say to your face. Your wife doesn't treat you right. I've watched her dismiss you, contradict you, control you. Your mother sees it too. We've talked about it. We didn't say anything because you seemed happy enough. But happiness and contentment aren't the same thing. You deserve someone who lifts you up, not someone who diminishes you. Don't settle for being tolerated. You're worth more than that. If you're reading this and you're still with her, think about whether you're actually happy or just comfortable. Life's too short to spend it with someone who makes you smaller. I love you. Be brave. Dad. I read it 3 times. My mother was crying quietly. The words blurred as my own tears fell on the paper. You knew he felt this way? We both did. We just didn't know how to bring it up without seeming like interfering in-laws. How long did you think this? A few years. She was better at first, or maybe we just didn't see it clearly. But the last few years, the way she talks to you, talks over you, makes decisions without you, we've noticed. And you never said anything. We didn't think it was our place. You seemed okay with it, or resigned to it. We couldn't tell which. I folded the letter carefully, put it in my wallet. I think I've been resigned to it. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Update 4. Friday morning, I turned my phone on to dozens of messages. My wife, her brother again, her mother, some of our mutual friends. All variations of where are you and are you okay and she's worried. The notifications kept coming, each one a reminder of the life I'd left behind. One message stood out. From my best friend from college, someone I hadn't talked to much since the wedding. Hey man, heard you left town. Your wife called me asking if I knew where you were. I told her no. Then she said some stuff about you being dramatic about your dad's death and I told her she was out of line. Just wanted you to know. Call me if you need anything. I called him. He answered on the first ring. You good? Define good. Still breathing? Not doing anything stupid? Still breathing. Went home to my mom's, going through my dad's stuff. How's that going? Found a letter he wrote me before he died. He told me my wife doesn't treat me right. Your dad was a smart guy. You think she doesn't treat me right? Dude, I've thought that for years. She's controlling, dismissive, constantly talking over you. We all see it. We all? Your friends, the ones from before her. We've talked about it. We didn't know how to bring it up without making you defensive. Jesus, everyone saw this but me. You saw it. You just didn't want to deal with it. Easier to go along than confront it. She told me I should be over my dad's death by now, that I'm bringing down the mood. Yeah, she told me that too when she called, like it was a reasonable thing to say. I told her she was being cruel. She got defensive, said I didn't understand the full context. I told her there's no context where that's okay. What did she say? She hung up on me. She's calling my friends to complain about me. Just me so far, I think. Probably trying to build a case that you're being unreasonable. Am I being unreasonable? For leaving? No. For finally standing up for yourself? No. For needing more than 3 months to grieve your father? Absolutely not. We talked for an hour. He told me stories I'd forgotten. Times she'd dismissed me in front of people. Times she'd made unilateral decisions about our life. Times she'd treated me more like an assistant than a partner. Each story felt like looking at my marriage through a new lens, one that showed all the cracks I'd been pretending didn't exist. I'd normalized all of it, told myself it was just her personality, that I was being too sensitive, that this was just how relationships worked. But my friend, my mother, my father, They'd all seen what I'd been refusing to see, that I'd been slowly erasing myself to keep the peace. Update 5. Saturday, I called my wife. She answered on the first ring. Finally, where have you been? My mother's house, dealing with my father's estate. You couldn't tell me that? I told you I needed time. You didn't tell me you were leaving the state. You told me to get over my grief, so I left to do that somewhere I wouldn't bring down your mood. I didn't tell you to leave. You told me I was being dramatic, that 3 months was long enough, that I needed to snap out of it, so I left to snap out of it away from you. You're twisting my words. Am I? What did you actually say? Tell me exactly what you said Tuesday night. Silence. The kind of silence that speaks louder than words. You can't, can you? Because you know what you said was cruel. You just didn't expect me to actually do something about it. When are you coming home? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I mean, I don't know. I'm going through my father's things. I'm spending time with my mother. I'm grieving properly instead of stuffing it down to make you comfortable. This is ridiculous. You're being a child. I'm being an adult who finally realized he's been accepting crumbs of empathy and calling it a meal. What's that supposed to mean? It means I found a letter my father wrote me before he died. He told me you don't treat me right. My mother agreed. My friend agreed. Everyone I've talked to this week has said some version of, finally, you're seeing it. Seeing what? That you're not kind to me. That you haven't been kind to me for years. That I've been making myself smaller to avoid conflict with you. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked what I wanted instead of telling me what we're doing? I don't. When's the last time you supported something I cared about? I support. When's the last time you treated me like a partner instead of an inconvenience? She didn't answer. The silence stretched between us like an ocean. That's what I thought. I'm staying here for a while. Take your time deciding if you actually want to be married to me or just married to the idea of not being alone. I hung up. She called back immediately. I didn't answer. Final update. It's been 6 weeks. I'm still at my mother's house. Helped her sort through everything. We donated, kept, distributed items to family members. Turned my father's workshop into a memorial space with his best pieces and his tools displayed. Every day I spend here, I feel more like myself, the person I was before I learned to make myself smaller. My wife has called 17 times. I answered twice. Both conversations were her trying to convince me to come home, that we could work it out, that she didn't mean what she said. But there was no real apology, no acknowledgement of what she'd done, just a desire to return to how things were. I asked her point blank, "Do you think 3 months is long enough to grieve a parent?" She hesitated. "It depends on the person. And you think I've had long enough?" I think you've been using grief as an excuse to check out of our marriage." There it was, the real belief, that my grief was performance, that I was using my father's death as manipulation, that my pain was somehow about her. I want a divorce. What? I want a divorce. I'll be back next week to get my things. You can have the house. I don't want anything except my personal items and half of what's in our savings. You're divorcing me because I told you to move on? I'm divorcing you because you don't respect me, because you see my grief as inconvenience, because everyone in my life saw how you treat me except me, and now I see it too. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. I hired a lawyer the next day, filed papers on Friday. She was served on Monday. She called me crying. "Please don't do this." Why shouldn't I? Because we've been together 8 years, because that has to mean something. It does mean something. It means I spent 8 years slowly disappearing to keep you comfortable. I'm not doing that anymore. I'll change. You shouldn't have to change to have basic empathy for your husband's grief. That should be automatic. I was just frustrated. I didn't mean it. You meant it. You just didn't think I'd leave over it. You thought I'd bend like I always do, but I'm done bending. The divorce will be final in about 4 months. I'm staying at my mother's house indefinitely. She says she likes having me here, that the house feels less empty. We cook together, watch old movies my father loved, talk about him without anyone telling us it's time to move on. I've been going to therapy, processing grief for my father and grief for my marriage simultaneously, learning that I spent years accepting treatment I never should have accepted, learning that keeping the peace often just means accepting disrespect quietly. My therapist says I'm doing important work, unlearning patterns that kept me trapped. My father's letter sits in my wallet. I read it when I'm doubting myself, when I'm wondering if I overreacted, when I'm thinking maybe I should have tried harder. But then I remember what my therapist said. Someone who loves you doesn't tell you to get over grief. Someone who loves you sits with you in it. She didn't sit with me. She told me I was bringing down the mood. Like my devastation over losing my father was an inconvenience to her social calendar. I don't know who was waiting at my mother's house when I arrived. It wasn't a dramatic reunion or a surprise visitor. It was just my mother, and the ghost of my father, and the memory of who I used to be before I started shrinking myself. But my wife wasn't expecting that. She wasn't expecting me to actually leave, to actually stand up for myself, to actually choose grief and healing over her comfort. She's texting me again now, every few days, trying different approaches, anger, bargaining, guilt, nostalgia. None of it works because I finally understand something my father tried to tell me. Being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. And being with my mother in my father's house, grieving properly and completely, I don't feel alone at all.